Hello, this is Vaidya Priyanka. Come and join me on a journey of fabulous eating, cooking, experiments, spices, and all things absolutely delightful for you, your family, all your loved ones, with us on Cuisine. Namaste and welcome to another episode of Cuisine, authentic, universal, meditative. I'm going to take you guys to a journey back to my lovely country, India, and to make one of our wonderful favorites, Chana Masala, otherwise called chole. And this is a very important dish to me. It's something that I grew up with, a complete staple, but I want you guys to experience a twist made with an absolute vegan perspective. So we have a really lovely hot pan going on, and I'm going to be choosing to use some avocado oil. It takes high temperature really well, and it doesn't have any flavor of its own, so that's very important. So I'm going to be putting in some cumin seeds and allow it to splatter. And then I'm going to be using some raw Garam Masala, which means not the powdered kind. It has coriander seeds, cinnamon, and all of those lovely things you should pick out. The fragrance here is just astounding. I'm then going to be putting in a paste of onion and allow it to completely warm up. I normally wait until the water really goes away and it's really warm. At this juncture, I'm going to be adding a teaspoon of minced garlic and a teaspoon of minced ginger. I do not like to get my ginger and garlic from, bottles. Usually a lot of the traditional stores, you'd find them in bottles. So it's a good idea to get the fresh ginger and garlic and pulverize it at home and make it into a paste so that you could be sure that there are no preservatives utilized in it. And more than anything else, it's absolutely fresh and you know what went into it, so it's really good. As that is coming together, this is the time for us to add two things. I'm going to be adding a teaspoon of cayenne pepper and a teaspoon of turmeric. Turmeric has a very potent smell, and it's very important for it to cook through a little bit more. So I always like to add the turmeric right in the beginning. And in India, no curry is really complete without having the turmeric in there. So at this juncture, I'm going to be adding some tomato paste. It really forms a wonderful base right at the bottom. And never ever add salt to Indian food right in the beginning. It really ruins the boiling point of the actual liquid contained. So it's a really good idea to wait until the very end to add salt to taste. So I'm going to be adding some heirloom tomatoes right in there, allowing it to simmer and completely soften. As that's going on, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about garbanzo, otherwise called chickpeas. It's very important to soak the peas that you get. I don't like to use the one from the canned variety, even if it says organic on it. I like to soak it for about 8 to 12 hours. I always do so with a piece of seaweed, otherwise called kombu. It helps tenderize the beans. I'm sure you remember from the video we did with the 5-bean chili. And then I put it into a slow cooker for allowing it to really take its time to cook. It's really tender and very soft. So that's very important because this is really the key performer of this incredible dish. Right when the tomatoes are getting to know the spices, this is when I add the rest of the spices. I'm going to be putting in a pinch of the cumin. I'm going to be using a pinch and a half of garam masala. And then I'm going to be putting in just a little pinch of coriander powder. And as that cooks through, it's time to add the garbanzo beans. So I do have some potatoes here. The reason why I have potatoes and I love them to cook and get really soft, I use this as a thickening agent. It really kind of takes away from the flavor of the beans for just a moment in your mouth. And it's also really kind of rustic, a really good complement to beans in general. So this is the time that I actually pour in some water. I add a really big heap of coriander leaves at this point. And a small pinch of black pepper. It really integrates the flavors very well. And as you can see, it really looks substantial and has a really delectable flavor at this point. I then add some dried methi leaves, which are really fenugreek leaves. This particular recipe of chole is something that I learned from an aunt of mine. She is a fabulous cook. And so a lot of the traditional recipes do not have some of these highlight ingredients. So I really do like to bring in her flavor. She's quite old now, so I don't really get an opportunity to, really taste her chole. But I do remember that when I made it for her once, her eyes just started glistening. So I really do believe it's very important to hold on to recipes from your family, especially when your tongue remembers and it commences a memory. That's really important. So as that is really getting to know each other, this is the time that I put in some slivers of ginger. I'm going to be putting in about half a teaspoon of coconut oil, and then I'll be putting in about 1.5 cups of coconut milk. I don't stir it at this point at all. I just allow all of the ingredients to start simmering. I want to give it about 5 to 7 minutes to come together, and I'll show you how I'm going to plate when we come back. It's time to do some stirring. It's been going on for a while. The color is coming alive so naturally. So this is the time wherein I add some cardamom powder. I really like to add the cardamom powder in the very end because we have used the black cardamom as part of the actual whole raw garam masala when it's not really the powdered kind. So this is the powdered of the green cardamom, just the seeds. So it really comes alive quite beautifully and naturally. And this is the end now, and I'm going to be putting salt to taste. I do get a lot of people writing to me saying, what is salt to taste? So it's what is good for you from a health perspective, as well as according to the taste based on the people that you're cooking for. So that's particularly what is called salt to taste. And it's a good idea to use either Himalayan pink salt or Celtic salt for this recipe. I don't like to use the Sindalu namak or the black salt for this recipe because it's kind of pungent and it takes away from the natural creaminess that the coconut milk creates in this recipe. I really do love it. It's kind of a fusion in my mind between the north and south of India, and this is something that I'm very familiar with, and it gives you a texture that really is embedded in the golden facets of your memory. It's that gorgeous. So it's time to plate up in just a second. So this is normally served with some batura, but then it's usually deep fried, so I don't make that. So it's always a good idea to perhaps get like gluten-free bread or roti or paratha. It goes very well with it. So there you have it, the chole. And what I really like to do with the chole is when I'm serving it, I like to put a really big heap of cilantro right on top and a few slivers of the ginger. So I'm going to do a little bit of a taste test, but before I do that, I dip my spoon in lemon juice. It just has a little bit of lemon in it, and I introduce the spoon right at the bottom of each serving that I create. You should never ever add lemon juice to a really boiling pan because the lemon juice will make your curry bitter. So you have to kind of add it after you've taken it away from the fire. So do a little taste test. I think my aunt will be happy. It's really good, really tasty, and it reminds me of a lot of beautiful memories from when I was a very curious teenager back home in India. Until we meet again with a blast from the past, this is Vaidya Priyanka.